At exactly 10 a.m. Eastern Time on April 13, 2026, the United States Central Command activated the most aggressive naval chokehold on a sovereign nation since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Every tanker, cargo vessel, and freighter attempting to enter or exit an Iranian port was ordered to stop. The U.S. Navy's blockade of Iran had gone live, and Iran had 6 days left on its ceasefire before all bets were off. This is not a drill. This is not a simulation. What you are about to hear is the real-time operational picture of the most dangerous naval standoff of the 21st century, a confrontation that unfolded over 96 hours between April 13th and April 15th, 2026, across the choke points of the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Red Sea. A crisis so fragile that a single miscalculation by a single ship captain could ignite a war spanning 3 continents. At 0958 hours on April 13th, 2 minutes before the blockade went live, the USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer operating in the northern Arabian Gulf, picked up a thermal signature on its AN/SPY-6 air and missile defense radar. The contact resolved fast. It was not a missile. It was an IRGC Navy fast attack craft doing 38 knots directly toward the blockade enforcement zone. 3 more contacts appeared on the tactical picture, then 6, then 9. Within 90 seconds of the blockade going live, Iran had deployed 12 fast attack craft in a layered picket formation across the northern Strait of Hormuz, a classic IRGC swarming doctrine designed not to destroy, but to provoke. To manufacture the justification for a retaliatory strike, the CIC aboard the USS Gravely went to general quarters. The sonar suite went active, because those 12 boats on the surface were only half the picture. Running 90 meters below the surface, the IRGC submarine force had deployed a Fateh-class coastal submarine, a quiet, domestically produced diesel-electric boat armed with JASC, 2 anti-ship cruise missiles and wire-guided heavyweight torpedoes. The Fateh-class was deliberately built to operate in the confined, shallow, acoustically complex waters of the Strait of Hormuz, where American nuclear submarines had to tread carefully to avoid the razor-sharp rocky seabed. The geometry was clear. Iran had built a 3-dimensional ambush fast attack craft above, a submarine below, and on the Iranian coastline, a battery of Noor anti-ship missiles trained on the convoy lanes. The IRGC was not trying to sink an American warship. Not yet. They were sending a message in the only language that gets attention, the language of targeting solutions. 300 miles to the southeast, a parade of supertankers was making the calculus of commerce versus survival. The Greek-flagged Elpis, a VLCC carrying 2 million barrels of crude, was steaming toward the strait when its captain saw the same swarm of IRGC contacts CENTCOM was tracking. He made his decision in 30 seconds. Full reverse. The Elpis executed a U-turn in open water. The Austria followed. Then the rich Starry. 3 supertankers, each representing hundreds of millions of dollars in cargo, went dark. AIS transponders disabled, course reversed. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's seaborne oil transits every day, had become a dead zone. Oil prices responded instantly. U.S. crude spiked 8% to $104.24 a barrel. Brent crude climbed 7%. The blockade wasn't just military. It was economic warfare with a timer attached. And the timer was ticking. 6 days until the ceasefire expired on April 21st. Iran's IRGC spokesman, General Hossein Mohebi, stepped before the cameras and delivered a threat that landed in every war room on the planet. Tehran was prepared to unveil new military capabilities and new forms of warfare that its adversaries would have, in his exact words, limited ability to counter. He didn't specify what those capabilities were. He didn't need to. The intelligence community had already been tracking the signatures for weeks. At 0300 hours on April 14th, a reconnaissance satellite pass over eastern China captured something that sent analysts into emergency session. Ground transport vehicles consistent with HHQ 9B long-range surface-to-air missile components were observed alongside Yun, 2 zero-transport aircraft on a military tarmac. 3 independent sources confirmed it. Beijing was preparing to deliver advanced air defense systems to Tehran within weeks. With a 200-kilometer engagement range and the ability to simultaneously target aircraft, cruise missiles, and ballistic re-entry vehicles, the system could neutralize the strike packages that American F/A-18E Super Hornets and F-35C Lightning IIs had been flying against Iran since Operation Epic Fury began February 28th. China's ambassador said Beijing had never provided weapons to any party to the conflict. 3 intelligence agencies said otherwise. At 0547 hours on April 15th, missile warning systems covering northern Israel triggered across 17 communities in the Galilee. Hezbollah had launched approximately 30 rockets from southern Lebanon timed to coincide with the early morning Israeli air patrol cycle. Iron Dome batteries engaged. Most rounds were intercepted, but the signal was unmistakable. Hezbollah was still in the fight, and it was firing the day after Israel and Lebanon held their first direct diplomatic talks in Washington in decades, a deliberate message that no political process would constrain what happened on the ground. Israel responded with more than 200 precision strikes against Hezbollah sites across southern Lebanon in 24 hours. 1 week earlier, Israeli strikes had killed more than 303 people across Lebanon, including 30 children. The Lebanese government filed an urgent UN complaint. The Security Council would do what it always does: nothing actionable. The peace talks in Islamabad lasted 21 hours and produced nothing. IRGC and Vance met with Pakistan's Sharif before delegations separated into working groups: economic, military, legal, nuclear. What emerged was a crystalline picture of an unbridgeable gap. U.S. red lines were non-negotiable: verified dismantlement of enrichment beyond 5%, destruction of ballistic missile stockpiles, end of proxy financing to Hezbollah and the Houthis. Iran's position was equally rigid: no negotiations under military duress, no disarmament without security guarantees, and Lebanon must be included in any framework. The delegations returned to their aircraft without agreement. Vance appeared on Fox News from an undisclosed location. "The ball is in Iran's court," he said. Translated from diplomatic language into operational language, that was a warning. Here is what the intelligence picture looks like as of April 15th, and here is why the next 144 hours are the most dangerous window the Middle East has seen since October 2023. The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group has repositioned from the eastern Mediterranean into the Arabian Sea, carrying 75 aircraft, including F-35C stealth fighters and EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets. U.S. CENTCOM states it has struck over 11,000 targets inside Iran since February 28th. And yet, Iran is not broken. Satellite imagery from April 10th shows front-end loaders clearing debris from tunnel entrances at missile-based sites south of Tabriz and near Koman. Iran's buried missile cities were designed to absorb a first strike, dig out, and launch again. That is exactly what they are doing. The missile cities are reloading. There is one specific scenario that every analyst tracking this crisis is watching with something approaching dread. April 21st arrives. No agreement. The ceasefire expires. Iran activates something that has never been used in combat. Based on signals intelligence detected in the northern Arabian Gulf, the leading candidate is a coordinated drone-submarine combination strike, a swarm of Shahed 238 jet-propelled suicide drones operating at sea-skimming altitude below the radar horizon of American warships, paired simultaneously with a torpedo salvo from a submerged Fateh-class submarine. The drones overwhelm the CIWS. The torpedoes target the hull. The combination is designed to defeat Aegis. This scenario has been war-gamed. The USS Gravely's crew has rehearsed it. The answer is not clean. At current engagement rates, a coordinated 2-4 drone swarm arriving from multiple bearings at sea-skimming altitude creates an intercept geometry problem that existing close-in weapon systems were not designed to solve. In the confined waters of the Strait of Hormuz, with landmass on both sides and average water depth of 35 meters, defensive engagement timelines shrink to under 11 seconds from first detection to impact. 11 seconds. That is the margin between a contained military confrontation and the sinking of an American warship for the first time since the Second World War. There will be people who tell you this is theater, negotiating tactics, that neither side wants full-scale war. They may be right. Trump has said the Iran war is very close to over. But the machinery of war is also still moving. The Ford strike group is repositioned. Iran's missile cities are reloading. Hezbollah's rockets are still flying. And the ceasefire expires in 6 days. Somewhere beneath the surface of the Strait of Hormuz, a Fateh-class submarine is running silent, running deep and waiting. What happens on April 21st may not start with a missile. It may start with a phone call that doesn't get answered. A captain who makes a decision in 11 seconds that changes the world. Stay sharp. Stay informed. Would you like me to break down the electronic warfare systems that would be used in an IRGC drone submarine combination strike on a U.S. Arleigh Burke-class destroyer?